A Night at the Pictures by Jim B. Harris. Giovanni Camillo, like all other growing-ups, enjoyed the sight of Robert Taylor and Betty Grable on the screen. Passing the Aegean the other night, the little rascal approached me with a "Gives a lap, mister." Now, at the best of times, my finances do not allow of their being depleted by the indiscriminate bestowing of lops on every importuner, youthful or otherwise. But something in little Giovanni's eye, perhaps the pathos inherited from his emotional Italian father, struck a sympathetic chord inside the pericardium, which induced me not only to produce the lop, but, with unaccustomed benevolence, to ask Giovanni if he would accompany me to the best seats in the house. "Ah, shucks, mister," he said, with the verbiage becoming one of a thorough grounding in a mode of expression of the cinema's second-rate heroes. "There's no need for the best seats. We'd be more at home in the gods." So, pocketing our pride, we bought 2 tickets for the gods and strolled into the semi-dark interior of the Aegean. May the Lord forgive me, but I felt like St. Francis stripping himself of his finery to embrace the coarse habit of self-renunciation as I passed some of my friends, seated in the best seats on my downward journey to the gods. That seething, seat-jumping, tobacco-chewing, unwashed, but withal human mass, silhouetted in ever-fluctuating outline against the ruddy glow which was the screen. Heavens, I thought, how am I to get a seat here? But Giovanni, whom I had facilitated in making his entry, was quite at home. Sure-footed as a chamois on his mountains, he scaled that yelling mass of humanity and beckoned me to follow. Throwing aside all thought of self-respect, and with the added stimulus of a florid-faced usher's threatening looks in my direction, not to mention the cries of "He'll take the crease out of your pants if he sits on those seats. Come on, mister, there's a couple of seats over here. Go to it, lad, there's no shame in not having the price of the 2 shillings. This from a blousy matron, smelling strongly of fish, tobacco and whiskey. I took the plunge, or rather 2 rows at a time, leaving in my wake a trail of whining children, bunion-bemoaning men and vituperative women. At last, seated between Giovanni and a rather aggressive-looking gentleman, I tried to draw my breath. Thank God I am out of view with Jim and the boys, thought I. But the fact of Jim and the boys having me under observation would have been a very, very minor catastrophe when viewed in the light of the events which followed. Having regained my respiratory powers, I decided to have a smoke. No sooner, however, had I produced my players than the aggressive-looking gentleman, very gentlemanly, produced a grimy packet with the invitation to have one of his. I declined, stating that I had plenty, but wouldn't he have some of mine? With a merry "Thanks, bud," he helped himself to the box, and having selected a few cigarettes with a connoisseur-like gesture, proceeded to hand it around to his colleagues. A bit thick that, I mused. A fella can carry things too far. In this case, my cigarettes were being carried a little too far for my liking. The limits of my patience were reached when I saw the before-mentioned blousy matron helping herself to one of them. Standing up, I asked her, in the most commanding tone of voice I could muster, to return me my cigarettes. The aggressive-looking man turned on me with a look of pained surprise, like the look that Caesar gave Brutus when he said, "Et tu, Brute?" But the aggressive-looking man did not say, "Et tu, Brute," or anything like it. He simply said, "Sit down," and implemented his command with a dig in the chest, mine, of course, that would have done credit to a gorilla. Vaguely, I remember the nightmarish events which followed. After hitting the seat with a sickening thud that nearly dislodged my molars, I found that I had lost my hat. On one side, Giovanni, thoroughly enjoying the whole thing, was leering at me like one of the Notre Dame gargoyles. On the other, through the gloom, I could see the florid-faced usher making towards the scene of disturbance with a murderous glint in his eye. All around me, the villainous plebs hooted, cackled, whistled, and in other diverse ways expressed their fiendish delight at my discomfiture. Vainly I endeavoured to stand again, but with the same drastic result as before, for the aggressive-looking man was now entering into the spirit of the thing, and outdid himself by his efficient handling of my second rebellious effort to regain my equilibrium. I remember seeing my hat being tossed about like flotsam on that seething sea of bedlamites. Soon, however, the film started, a technical or travel talk. At last, In spite of my humiliation, I settled down to enjoy the soothing vistas of South American scenery, enhanced a thousandfold by the suave voice of the commentator. And to tell you the truth, I did enjoy it, excepting one hectic moment, when the black form of a much-abused hat sailed across the gorgeous, technicolourful panorama with jarring incongruity. Coming home that night, I edged along through highways and byways, fearful lest some of the boys might see me, for such is human vanity. If ever again Giovanni asks me for a lop, he'll get it, but never again will I venture to accompany him to what, in his opinion, are the best seats in the house.